Well, it's time to say goodbye to 2024. Thank you for spending time with Next, and here's to the year ahead. Before we get started on our fresh start for the new year, new you, let's settle in and remember some of the most interesting people that we caught up with in 2024. I would say this feels a little bit formal for a festive season special, but you know, there are only so many days that you can get away with wearing the black velour. But let's go with something a little bit more celebratory for the rest of our time together. Yeah, this is better. We begin our look back at the people and places of 2024 with a Coloradan who taught us about patience. Ed Dwight was the first black man to train as an astronaut back in the 1960s, yet he didn't make it to space himself until 2024. Dwight rode aboard a Blue Origin capsule that skimmed outer space during a 10-minute flight. We caught up with him at his art studio a few weeks before that trip.
You know, the whole thing about being alive is what I call curiosity. I'm a very curious person. My name is Ed Dwight. I was born in 1933. I grew up on a farm near an airport. I never aspired myself to flying because I just thought all these guys were white guys. I changed my mind because I'm in college and I see this black pilot and I'm saying, oh my God, you mean I can do that? And that's when everything changed. Once this flying bug bit, I was just flying everything I could fly. I was in the Air Force 13 years. While I was there, I was selected by President Kennedy to be the first, what they call then, the first Negro astronaut. All my peers and my bosses said, don't, those guys are crazy, Ed, don't do it. I was on the cover of magazines around the world, getting 1,500 letters a day, mail, and I hadn't done anything yet. I hadn't done one thing yet other than go into training. I would have gone into space had Kennedy not died, because he was my sponsor. I mean, look what happened to me, man. Here I was, this little short black guy in the military, and these guys picked me out of nowhere, and they dropped me in the middle of the White House, Congress. How many people does that happen to? I served my purpose, and my purpose was to start a conversation about blacks in space.
Dwight is now the oldest person to make it into space, breaking a record formerly held by William Shatner, of all people. 2024 was one of the last years where survivors of D-Day and Pearl Harbor were able to travel for commemorations. It's been 80 years since the Allied troops stormed the beaches of Normandy. We took the opportunity to meet 99-year-old John Ingergand, who came ashore a few weeks after D-Day and saw combat in France.
We were going to put ashore as many men on shore as they had on the ground. My name is John Ingergand, and I was a rifleman in World War II. When we got to Normandy, we arrived on D+7, and been the 12th of June. And there was no one firing on us at the time, so we got ashore with no actual opposition. There was opposition a little later in the day, but for the first 2 hours we had it to ourselves. This is the Purple Heart for being wounded twice, actually. We were there to win the war, to beat the Germans. We were all on the same page, going the same direction, fighting the same war against people who were deadly dangerous people. Beating Hitler was absolutely essential. His ideas were so corrupt that we couldn't possibly support them, and we had to win. That was the most important thing in the world, because they had done the most terrible thing you could do to people, freedom. Freedom is the most important thing. To be under someone else's control easily and for no reason is not freedom.
2024 marked a milestone for a family recovering and rebuilding after the East Troublesome fire. It was 2020 when that fire burned nearly 200,000 acres in Colorado and killed a husband and wife. Their family shared their story of resilience with our Mark Salinger.
Pretty much everything in the surrounding area was consumed, and we've been plugging along for 4 years now, trying to get things back, and the home will be the crowning jewel on the efforts.
When one chapter ends, a new one begins.
Growth, tons of it.
Glenn Heilman knows getting to the next phase isn't always easy.
I think my parents would have been very disappointed if we had not continued on their legacy.
Construction crews now fill the land outside of Grand Lake that Glenn and his family have owned for more than 70 years. A new house replaces one filled with so many memories.
They estimate that the fire came through here at about 10 o'clock that night. So 15 minutes after I spoke to them, they were lost in the fire.
The yellow house in the mountains that Glenn's parents built together burned in the East Troublesome Fire of 2020. Lyle and Mary Lynn Heilman died inside.
They were together. It's the place they loved the most, and that's where their lives concluded.
Little survived the fire. Everything that did will forever be a part of the story here.
My mom was absolutely adamant. No, I want my ashes spread between the two trees. They were significant to my parents, and therefore they were significant to us.
The flames spared these trees and left the family flag barely hanging on.
During the fire and after the fire, when we arrived 8 days later, there were still remnants of that flag that were still intact, and we were amazed by it. So we retrieved those tattered remains of the flag, and respectfully we brought that down, and then we raised a new flag in honor of my parents.
The physical recovery can be different from the mental one. Glenn wrote a book to share his parents' story through the final chapter.
No, something isn't right, she added.
So that everyone will remember the yellow house in the mountains and the people who loved it.
It was now 10 o'clock. Glenn called his parents back. There was no answer. That's kind of tough. I haven't read that in a long time. Probably a year since I've read that. But lots of memories. But it was a beautiful ending to two beautiful lives.
Next has been on the air for 8 years. And we're still learning new things, like what a steeplejack is, and that Colorado is home to one of the few steeplejacks still working anywhere in America.
All right, here we go. I just really want to see flags flying on our flagpole. It shows our freedom, our patriotism. Hi, I'm Todd Ross. I'm called a steeplejack, and what I do is I fix and repair flagpoles all around the country.
He has no fear. It's something I would never personally do, but up there, he's so comfortable up there.
Prior to this, I was in aviation. I've worked in aviation my whole life. And one day I was driving to work and I counted 42 flagpoles with no flags on them. And it really kind of struck a chord with me. Why aren't we flying flags on these flagpoles? I left my aviation job and started doing this full time, and I should have been doing this my whole life. I'm painting them, I'm putting flags up, I'm doing any kind of repair, whether it's new cable, new rope, new pulleys, new ornaments on top. Anything that needs to be done to that pole to get the flag flying, I can do that. Little wobbly. Yeah, I've climbed the Chicago Tribune, and I've climbed a 200-foot flagpole in Texas, and I've climbed a 30-foot pole on a beach in Florida. All right, I'm coming down. One of the most exotic ones I think I've climbed is on top of Cheyenne Mountain for the Broadmoor, a place called Cloud Camp, and it's 9,200 feet on the edge of a rocky cliff, and it's a 40-foot pole that needed to be painted. It's just embedded in my blood. You'll never get me off the flagpoles. This is my life. This is who I am. Fixing and repairing flagpoles. Ta-da!
It's not just flagpoles. Ross can scale whatever needs fixing up high. Earlier this year, he was on top of Coors Field, fixing their lightning rods.
They were the ones being at first, so it's basically a sword fight right now. I feel like we're winning.
We're back with a PG-13 feud to remember. A story we never thought would make on the air, but it did. On Next.
Maybe the new year is time to squash old beef with your neighbor. Or maybe it's time to double down and win it once and for all. In 2024, we caught up with the employees at a tattoo shop in Colorado Springs who put together a really big art piece whose pettiness is undefeated.
Ready? Sit straight. Hello. I'm TV's Mark Salinger, down in Colorado Springs today to share an important story going on in our community.
Blur it out for sure.
There are a lot of words to describe what we're blurring, but let's just call it a male body part.
The mural is basically, it's a tow truck driver towing a car. He's a big old running over while other are running away from him, doing Colorado activities like mountain biking and snowboarding away and stuff like that.
This is Pace. He's a tattoo artist at Fallen Heroes Tattoo in Colorado Springs. He painted the mural that we can't show you.
It's just been a parking dispute, so we tried to work together and it really got nowhere. So we knew something like this mural would get their attention.
The new apartment building next door has been towing customers' cars. They share an alley, but there are only signs on the apartment side that say resident parking only. It's confusing, and they say at least 45 of their customers have gotten their cars towed recently for parking in spaces outside their building.
They were the ones being at first, so it's basically a sword fight right now. I feel like we're winning.
To get back at them, they did what tattoo artists do best. Now everyone in the apartment building has to look out over this.
It's very cartoony and fun, but it's still
I wanted to know if the mural violated any laws here in Colorado Springs. So being the professional journalist that I am, I reached out to the city to ask them. They said that since the mural is on private property and the owners approved it, at this time, they can't say that the mural violates any laws.
I mean, we're 6 days away from the most important election of my lifetime, and here we are talking about the on my roof.
David Brown owns the tattoo shop. He's in Florida right now, fielding phone calls from reporters across the country.
There's a possibility that we're the in all of this, because maybe the rest of downtown Colorado Springs wants a building that looks like IKEA threw up.
The owners of the apartment complex told us they were trying to be the bigger man, so to speak, just wanted to find a solution. Living next to DU has a way of getting your attention by a very different method, especially if you are within earshot of the bell tower. In April, we met the man who's keeping the bells ringing and teaching others to do the same.
It sounds like there's a lot more tradition when you hear them going off.
A lot of people have heard carillons or heard bells. They don't quite know what's going on in the tower.
You'd think there'd be some sort of key involved that you're playing, and then that translates to really loud gong bells playing.
Let's see. I'm Joey Brink. I'm the university carillonist and adjunct professor of carillon, which means I play the bells and teach bells. So a carillon is a keyboard instrument, and it plays bells.
What was it called again? Caroline? Caroline. Nice.
So we have 65 bells in the tower. The smallest bell is only 20 pounds, but the biggest bell is 12,000 pounds. I've been doing this for a long time, so I'm kind of used to the feeling of controlling the soundscape for a neighborhood. Do you remember how to find a C?
Ah, shoot, it's this one.
Yes.
Okay, my name is Ella and I'm a junior. I'm playing the carillon.
And this note compared to where it was?
I think it's something that's really unique to the campus and just kind of makes us stand out. Okay, so that's F, so then that's G.
E, because you're going backwards.
Crap, E, okay.
Yeah, you're good.
So when I figured out it was like a class I could take and I could learn how to play it, I thought it'd be cool to try.
Exactly.
It's nice to look forward to, and it helps me also know if I'm running late to things, but in like a nice way.
People are often surprised when I tell them that this is actually a growing art form. The art form is growing, and it's exciting to be able to continue that growth.
A baker teaching migrants the tools of his trade so they can quite literally put food on the table. That's next.
Some of our favorite stories to tell are about non-native Coloradans who set up shop here and immediately get to work welcoming others, like the chef at the bakery in Denver, who opened his kitchen to Venezuelan migrants.
Have you been in before?
No, I haven't actually.
If it was on me, you're totally missing out. So
A good baker doesn't bake for themselves.
And I have a chocolate almond if you're a chocolate person.
They bake to share a little bit of joy. Ishmael de Souza has been running Reunion Bakery in Denver for 6 years. He's proud of where he comes from.
I'm Venezuelan, but it is where I grew up in.
As more Venezuelans arrived in Colorado, Ishmael saw a new need.
A lot of guys begging and just asking for money on the streets. And every time they were Venezuelans, I never thought this was going to be something that will happen in now my hometown.
He donated food and raised money for migrants, but wanted to do more.
Josper, somehow this guy is, I don't know, he has some sort of magic.
Josper made a 5-year trek from Venezuela.
Y se hace muy complicado, primero porque no sabes el idioma. Segundo, no sabes qué hacer porque legalmente no tienes la autorización de trabajar.
We really need to get those nurture, Alex.
Ishmael teamed up with a nonprofit to provide a few Venezuelan migrants like Josper
Esta que está aquí.
space in his kitchen for hands-on training, learning English, and getting paid through donations.
Mi mamá era chef en un restaurante en Venezuela y ella desde pequeña nos enseñó muchas cosas, pero ya en sí empecé a cocinar fuera aquí en Colorado.
The good baker, using his kitchen to raise up the people around him.
It's really fulfilling to see what these guys have achieved.
Siento la integración de la comunidad.
For Next, I'm Mike Grady.
¿Se pusiste un timer allí?
Sí, ya, una hora.
Una hora. Bello.
Ismail asked each of the Venezuelans in the program to create a menu item that reminded them of home, and then he added those to the bakery's rotation. Hey, if you're not into sweets, could I interest you in some 200-year-old sourdough? A family recipe that was carried west by settlers on the Oregon Trail went viral on social media this year. That meant a whole lot of work for one woman in Greeley.
And this is me drying about 3 trays of fresh sourdough starter. To preserve this particular sourdough and make it available so it doesn't disappear. I'm Mary Buckingham. I'm the mailbox keeper for the 1847 Oregon Trail Sourdough Preservation Society. Oh, that job is that I set up a post office box where we receive the requests. I go and pick them up and process the envelopes and get them ready to be filled. It's just a starter, and it's just about a teaspoon of ground dried sourdough starter. I'm processing these thousands of sourdough starter requests we have suddenly fallen upon us since a TikTok video on January 20th. Let's see, last week we had 1,355, not including a couple hundred small envelopes I haven't even processed yet. I had no idea, absolutely no idea. In the past, we've had huge newspapers like the New York Times and the Chicago Tribune mention us in a sourdough article, and we got a huge influx. But we're talking, 350 a week, not 1,400. In the last 3 weeks, we have gotten a volume that we normally get in a whole year, and we're only 2 people doing this. Now it's every day, 8 to 10 hours a day, no breaks. This is going on 3 weeks now. I've just had to stop everything. It's crazy. These are last week's collection. And with this stuff, I'm finding out there's all kinds of towns and whatnot I never knew existed. People who donate to us, which is the only way we can keep doing this, I have to count, and then we print up a thank you letter for them and put that in. These are the envelopes that are ready to be mailed. I would like this to calm down to a more manageable amount because I do have other things to do. Well, I hope they enjoy the experience of using sourdough. You can grow it and share it. All you have to do is follow the instructions on our website to revive it, and then you can share it endlessly.
Mary and her fellow volunteers at the Sourdough Preservation Society group have been running that mail program since 2000. And they estimate that they have sent out more than 65,000 sourdough starters in that time. We're back with our favorite viewer feedback of 2024 next. In 2024, we also got to talk with hundreds of Next viewers as you texted, emailed, called in with feedback each night. But one viewer's feedback really stuck with us. Perhaps you remember Brad, who wasn't convinced that we really were out there reporting live on the wildfires back in August.
Brad says, in your stories about the fires, it is so obvious that you are standing in front of a green screen and dressed as if you're out there. What a farce. All right, Brad, just for you. All right, got to unplug the microphone. Have a good night.
Brad wrote back. Touché, Kyle. Your quick response made me smile as well. Brad says, I've learned to be more careful regarding those I listen to. I was truly impressed how quickly and humorously you responded. God bless you and yours, Brad. I respect that a ton. That guy Brad can, 1, take a joke, and 2, change his mind based on new evidence. Do you know how much better the world would be if everybody out there could take a joke and change their mind when they get new information? That'd be a whole new world. Be like Brad. That tagline, be like Brad, even made it up onto the wall in a 7th grade classroom in Jeffco's Manning School of Academics and Arts. The teacher there, Chrissy, says she wants her social studies students to be flexible thinkers and to have that growth mindset like Brad. Here's hoping that's one lesson that we all carry into the new year. Thank you again for spending 2024 with us. I will see you next year.